NASCAR feels absolutely electric right now, and what makes this particular moment so different is that it is not just one thing driving that energy. There are two massive stories happening at exactly the same time, and when you put them together, the tension building across the sport feels unlike anything we have seen so far this season. One of these stories is the kind that makes fans jump off the couch, the kind where you watch something happen on the racetrack and immediately know you are watching something that belongs in the history books. The other story is the kind that makes everyone in the garage start glancing around at each other and asking questions that nobody really wants to say out loud, but absolutely everyone is thinking. Both of them are unfolding right now, and together they are creating a level of drama and pressure that could define how the rest of the 2026 season plays out. We might genuinely be sitting in one of those early season moments that people look back on months from now and say that is when everything changed. The energy is different. The conversations are different. Something has clearly shifted. And whether you are thrilled by it, suspicious of it, or just trying to figure out what to make of it all, this is exactly the kind of NASCAR day that stays in the conversation for a very long time. Before we get into both of these stories, if you are a real NASCAR fan who loves the drama, the speed, and everything happening behind the scenes every single week, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to NASCAR Nation Report right now. This channel is brand new, and the goal is to get to 10,000 subscribers by building a genuine community of fans who actually live this sport. Every person who joins from the beginning is part of building something real here. If that sounds like you are in exactly the right place. Now let us get into it. The first story is about Tyler Reddick and what he just pulled off at Darlington Raceway. And before you just file this away as another race result, you need to understand the full picture of what happened during that race and what it means in the context of where this season is heading. Because when you see it clearly, it stops looking like just a win and starts looking like something historically significant. Reddick started on the pole, and from the outside, that might make the win look comfortable and straightforward. It was anything but. Almost from the moment the race got going, things started falling apart for the number 45 team. A slow pit stop during the first green flag cycle cost him track position right when the field was sorting itself out. Then the team had to make a battery change, which is the kind of problem that sends you to the very back of the field to restart the second stage. Two big setbacks in the first half of the race alone. But it got worse on top of that because his cool suit stopped functioning properly. For anyone who doesn't know what that means in practical terms, imagine driving a race car for more than 400 miles at Darlington, one of the most physically brutal and demanding tracks on the entire schedule, in serious heat, without the cooling system that drivers depend on to keep their body temperature under control during a long run. Darlington punishes drivers even when everything is working the way it is supposed to. Without a functioning cool suit, the physical challenge of finishing that race becomes significantly more demanding. So when you add all of that together, losing track position early, getting sent to the rear, and fighting through a mechanical failure that made the physical demands of the race harder, and then Reddick still comes back to win, you are not looking at a fast car winning a race. You are looking at a driver and a team that found a way through every problem thrown at them and still came out on top. That is a different kind of impressive. The way it all came together late in the race tells the real story of how Darlington was decided. Brad Keselowski had been the dominant car for a massive portion of the day. He swept both opening stages, led 142 laps, and for long stretches it genuinely looked like RFK Racing was going to control this race from flag to flag. They were that strong. But 23XI Racing stayed patient, kept working the strategy, and when the critical late race pit stop came around, they stayed out 3 laps longer than Keselowski. That one decision meant Reddick had fresher tires at the end of the race when every single lap matters. About 20 laps after those pit stops cycled through, Reddick made his move, got around Keselowski, and then pulled away cleanly. He did not just hold him off at the line, he stretched the gap to 5.8 seconds by the time the checkered flag flew, and led 77 laps total. That is a statement win in every sense of the phrase. When you step back and look at what this victory means in the bigger picture, the numbers become genuinely difficult to process. That was Reddick's first career win at Darlington and the 12th win of his Cup Series career. But the number that stops you cold is this one. Reddick now has 4 wins in the first 6 races of the 2026 season. 4 wins in 6 races. The Fox broadcast pointed out after the race that in doing so, Reddick joined Dale Earnhardt in 1987 and Bill Elliott in 1992 as the only drivers in Cup Series history to win 4 of the first 6 races in a season. Those are not just former champions, those are 2 of the most legendary names this sport has ever produced. Being placed in the same historical sentence as Earnhardt and Elliott is not something that happens casually. That is a level of dominance that only a handful of people in the entire history of NASCAR have ever achieved. This is also a defining moment for 23XI Racing as an organization. The team co-owned by Denny Hamlin and Michael Jordan has been growing since it launched in 2021, and these 4 wins are already more than the team has managed in any single previous season. Michael Jordan said after the race that Reddick did an unbelievable job, which honestly feels like an understatement given what he had to overcome to get to victory lane. What makes this run so compelling is not just the raw number of wins, it is the way those wins are coming. Different tracks, different kinds of races, different types of adversity, and the team keeps finding the answer every single time. That is not luck running hot. That is a team operating at a genuinely elite level right now. You also have to acknowledge what Darlington meant for RFK Racing, because from their perspective, this was a race that was right there for the taking and ended up slipping away. Keselowski did almost everything right. He had the fastest car for a huge portion of the day, swept both stages, and controlled the race for long stretches. Chris Buescher was also very much in the mix, leading 41 laps and showing real competitive speed throughout. Ryan Preece had a quieter afternoon but still brought his car home 13th, which at least showed RFK had 3 cars in the conversation. But when the tire strategy played out at the end, Keselowski had nothing left to fight with once Reddick's fresher rubber came to life. Buescher's race got further complicated when he picked up right-side damage in turns 3 and 4 after Reddick ran into the back of him, apparently not aware that Buescher was heading to pit road. Buescher salvaged 9th, but looking back at the whole day, RFK has to sit with the feeling that this was a winnable race that got away from them. A few other stories from the race are worth mentioning because they fill in the picture of where the rest of the field stands. Carson Hocevar had a genuinely impressive day for Spire Motorsports and carried the Chevrolet flag on a day when Hendrick Motorsports was not at its usual dominant level. William Byron was the best of the Hendrick group in 8th, which by that organization's standards is a quiet afternoon. Hocevar started from the rear because of unapproved pre-race adjustments, which at Darlington typically means spending the whole race just trying to stay out of trouble. Instead, Spire played a smart long strategy, kept Hocevar out with 47 laps to go, put fresh tires on, and he charged all the way to 4th. That is a really impressive result for a smaller team. Team Penske had a mixed day overall. Ryan Blaney finished 3rd and Austin Cindric came home 5th, so the organization had 2 cars in the top 5. But Joey Logano had one of those completely puzzling days that occasionally hits even the most experienced drivers. A 3-time champion and a former Darlington Spring race winner, Logano qualified 29th, went a lap down only 34 laps into the race, and finished 33rd. In a race where managing tire fall-off was so critical, Logano and the number 22 team never found any answers at all. Now, here is where this whole day turns into something that goes well beyond a race result, because the second story is directly connected to the first, and it is changing the atmosphere inside the garage in a very serious way. Tyler Reddick's dominance is no longer just drawing admiration from fans and quiet respect from competitors. It is starting to generate real suspicion. According to reports, rival teams across the Cup Series have begun raising formal concerns about how 2311 Racing has been performing in 2026. After this fourth win in just 6 races, multiple organizations have reportedly started questioning whether the number 45 car is fully in line with NASCAR's rulebook. The concern, based on sources familiar with what is being discussed, is that some teams simply cannot reconcile the competitive gap they are seeing with anything that normal preparation and execution would explain. An internal petition is reportedly being circulated in the garage, urging NASCAR to conduct a deeper and more thorough technical review of 2311 Racing's cars. One anonymous team executive was quoted saying directly that you do not find that kind of speed across every different track type without something being wrong, and specifically pointed to the long-run pace, the tire wear numbers, and the way the car drives off the corners as areas that look like they are operating on a completely different level from everyone else. The 3 specific areas of concern that teams are reportedly focused on are worth understanding. First, the tire longevity on the number 45 car appears unusual when compared to what the rest of the field is seeing on the same compound at the same track. Second, the acceleration off the corners has been consistently stronger than what rivals are producing. Third, the long-run speed holds up regardless of track type or conditions in a way that other teams simply are not experiencing with their own equipment. When you watch the Darlington race with those 3 things in mind, and you see how Reddick kept finding more pace even after everything that went wrong early, you can understand why the conversation is getting louder. NASCAR responded to the growing noise by confirming that all cars go through strict inspection protocols both before and after every race, and that there are currently no findings of any rules violations. That matters enormously, and it cannot be overlooked. This is still suspicion. There is no official violation, no penalty issued, and no confirmed infraction of any kind. 2311 Racing has pushed back firmly against the rumors, with a team spokesperson stating that they are operating fully within the rules and that the results come from preparation, execution, and a strong team working together at a high level. That is the expected response from any team in that position, but it is also a completely plausible explanation. Elite teams genuinely do separate themselves through better people, smarter decisions, and drivers who can get everything out of the equipment they are given. All of that is real. But this story hits on something that NASCAR always has to protect carefully, and that is competitive integrity. When one team gets this hot this early, the rest of the garage starts looking for explanations. Some of that is jealousy. Some of it is frustration from teams working just as hard and not seeing the same results. And some of it is genuine concern about whether the playing field is level. In NASCAR history, whenever one organization starts beating everyone this consistently, the garage starts talking. That part is nothing new. What makes this moment feel different is that the conversation keeps getting louder while Reddick keeps adding wins to the total with no sign of slowing down. This is what a NASCAR season looks like when everything is happening at once. Greatness, doubt, drama, garage politics, and real on-track results all colliding together at the same moment. The pressure is everywhere. On Reddick to keep proving this is genuine historic dominance and not something that falls apart under scrutiny. On 2311 Racing to keep performing while the spotlight gets harsher every single week. On NASCAR to make sure every inspection is thorough enough to answer every question clearly. And on every other driver and team in the field to figure out how to close a gap that right now looks very, very wide. Drop a like on the video and jump into the comments to tell us what you think about Tyler Reddick, 2311 Racing, Brad Keselowski, RFK Racing, and all the noise building around the number 45 team. Subscribe to NASCAR Nation Report for honest reactions and real NASCAR conversation every week. The channel is brand new, the push toward 10,000 subscribers is on, and this community is being built with people who truly love this sport. We will see you in the next one.